Hey there everybody, it's Mark Riley back with another how to draw video, except this is not a how to draw video, this is a how to color video, and I am going to be showing you how to use watercolor to add color to a black and white illustration. Now you saw at the beginning, all in time-lapse, I was coloring in this whole bottom section of this illustration, and that allows me to focus just on this one structure right here. Now I should quickly say, for those of you who haven't seen it, this is a continuation in a way of an earlier video that was teaching two-point perspective, and I will make a link to that video if you want to see how this first drawing was made. But like I said, this one really is going to be focusing on coloring. So what I'm going to do is show you how I begin, and the kinds of watercolors that I'm using here are the kinds that you can get at almost any good art store, Grumbacher, Winsor Newton, any quality watercolor will do. But I want to show you a trick of using a piece of scrap paper to kind of test out how light or dark your color is going to be before you really go for the final illustration. And so this is showing me, okay, I got about the lightness that I want. And you always want to start light. I think that's fair to say that anyone who's doing watercolors would agree that you want to start with a light wash of color that you can continue to add onto. If you start really dark, of course, it's very hard to go on top of that. And basically with watercolors, I would say you can get away with about 3 layers max. Notice that I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to the different sides of this structure. I'm really just trying to get a light base color down that covers the entire thing. You know, it's kind of funny that this was supposed to be like a Death Star type structure, and of course the Death Star is all kind of white or gray and these sort of almost very muted colors. And I thought just to make this more interesting, I would imagine a Death Star that has a kind of rusted, brownish, reddish kind of surface to it. Otherwise, I would just be using, gray and black and white kind of colors, which wouldn't be a lot of fun for this video. So imagine this as a sort of rusted surface. Now sometimes even on this first wash, I may start to go a little darker into the sections that are going to be shaded. If you saw that previous video, I had used pencil to add color, or not color, but darkness, shadows to the undersurface of this structure, which does, let's admit it, look a little bit like that building from Teen Titans. When there's trouble, you know who to call. Teen Titans! Okay, I'll never do that again, I promise. But I just had to do it once. Just once, people. In any case, I'm just going to continue adding very light shading to this, and I kind of consider this all part of the first layer of watercolor. And what I will do is probably stop and let this dry to a large extent before going in to do the official second layer. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to kind of pause the tape and come back when this is completely dry. Okay, so it's dried now, and I should say that this paper is Strathmore Smooth Bristol. And I really would advise when you're doing watercolor to get some nice thick Bristol. For me, I prefer smooth surface. But in any case, I'm testing out the watercolors here for my second layer of color, and I think I can go a fair amount darker than I did on that first one, and I'm going into the undersurface of this huge landing pad structure. Just going to try to fill this in. And, one of the nice things about I'm doing this sort of rusted, weathered surface. One of the nice things about doing that is I don't have to worry about this being perfect, like a perfectly uniform, or having just one exact color all the way across. In fact, it helps if it's a little bit uneven. So, in terms of doing a perfectly smooth surface, I'm not the best guy to teach you how to do that. I would say really for that kind of thing, you might want to try adding water first to the paper, making it really wet. Not too wet. This whole thing's very tricky. but you get it sort of damp, and then very quickly, with a single layer, try to go in with just pure color, and the water helps kind of carry it across the page. It is not easy, let me tell you. So you can see I'm kind of going to like a medium tone here. I'm not going all the way super dark. The trick with watercolor is to kind of go in with washes like this. My feeling is there would be at least a little bit of shade here on this upper surface, right? The light would not get all the way down there. So I am just adding a slightly blurred kind of second shadow here. I'm going to try to keep the lower edge as straight as possible. Sometimes you end up with a little bit of extra darkness in your brush, and you want to try to get rid of it almost, right? Like say I'm doing this section here. I'm going to sort of like deliberately make it too dark. Hang on a second. So I'm trying to do a little shadow in here, and right, so I've got this really dark little blotch of paint, and sometimes you want to try to push that off, and you sort of lead it around, right? See how I'm doing? Trying to get rid of it little by little. Because I have too much, and I don't want to just stop dead cold in the middle of nowhere. So I'm sort of leading it around and gradually getting rid of it. Very often, see how I put darkness along that edge where it goes from light to dark? That's a nice place to put a little extra paint if you need to kind of get rid of some, the way I did right then. But you can see maybe, and I never really thought about this, but when I do a layer of paint, I do at the end sort of tend to take advantage of that time to add just a few more splotches and so forth before it has completely dried. So when I talk about layers, I'm not just talking about simple flat layers. I kind of do a lightness, a layer of light color. Then I, toward the end of that time, while it has not completely dried, I'm adding secondary little blotches of extra color. Well, again, I'm going to let this dry one last time and then come back for what I would call the sort of final polish layer of detail colors. Okay, so now I'm going to come in and I'm going to start sort of filling in sections of this upper surface, or really the entire surface of this object. I find that until you start giving some variation in the color of a surface like this, it sort of looks flat. It doesn't have that solidity that you may want, and so I'm going in and sort of altering the color in certain sections just to add just a little variety to it. I find that the more you go back into these sections and add to them, the more solid that surface is going to look. And this, those of you who've seen my videos before, you have probably heard me say that the most crucial part of the process is the sort of final polishing process, and it can go on for a very long time. You can spend like an hour adding, I use the word polish, just adding detail, adding colors into certain sections. For right now, I'm limiting myself mainly to this one side of the object. But if I darken up my colors here, and again, I'm using my extra scrap piece of paper to see how dark it's going to get, then I can do the same thing over here. It's very important to have let this paint dry before I attempt to do this kind of thing, because otherwise it will start bleeding. It sounds like bleeding. It starts bleeding everywhere. Sounds like I'm doing a slasher film. But yeah, the color will sort of bleed from one area into the other. And you may want that for certain effects, but certainly when you want control, you don't want that to happen, and so you do have to pay attention to letting it really thoroughly dry. And, I think what I might do with this one, this is kind of part 2 of that first video, adding color to what originally had almost no color. I think I might, call me crazy, people, but I think I might even go for a part 3. Part 3! You must be mad. The people won't stand for it, Critty. I think actually to do justice to this and to keep this video to a limited time frame, I am going to hold off and do a third video, yet a third video in this series in which I do the sky, maybe get to coloring that ship. I'm sure a lot of people were watching this video and they're like, dude, when are you going to get to the ship? I'm back to the surfer dude. Dude, like, I just came back from hanging 10, and I'm like, what, man? You haven't finished the ship yet? Actually, after that, you guys will probably not want me to ever do the surfer voice ever again, ever. But let's consider this part 2 of a 3-parter. I'm going to come back and do additional coloring in the third part of this video. You know, it kind of depends on your tastes. Some people might look at this and say, hey, that sort of looks done to me right now. I don't know if you need to add anything else to it, but I am going to come back and do a third video in which I add yet more color, probably to this surface here. I may even break out the colored pencils and other tools to show you some other coloring techniques. But that's probably it for now. Let me go ahead and grab my books. You know, I can't end one of these videos without showing my books, and particularly right now, I have to make sure I show them because I got some new books coming out. Hang on just a second. All right, so I'm back, and I want to thank anyone who's got my Miki Falls manga series, as well as Brody's Ghost. We got a new edition, not all that new, but it's at bookstores across the country. Courtesy of Scholastic, and like I said, new books on the way. This one already out. This is a Brody's Ghost full-color standalone comic book from Dark Horse. You can maybe find that in, boy, getting a lot of glare there. Gotta avoid the glare. Getting that at bookstores, comic book stores, and also online. I'll put a link in the information box. And finally, Mastering Manga, my new How to Draw manga book coming out in March 8th. I'll put a link for pre-ordering that. A lot of people have already pre-ordered that book. Thanks so much for that. But I will be doing another video giving you a big intro to that How to Draw book, showing you the various sections of it and so forth. Maybe even as my very next video. But I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to lay the brush down. Thank you one more time. And promise you, as I always do, that I'll be back with another one real soon.